You're listening to the Toolstation Western League podcast with Ian Knockholds and Tom Hiscott.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 16 of the Toolstation Western League podcast with me, Ian Knockholds, and I'm delighted to be joined on the line by Tom Hiscott, the editor of the Toolstation Western League Bulletin. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. How about yourself?
Well, I'm cold.
Well, yeah.
Because it's that time of the year.
It is.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out on Saturday and watch any Western League football, although I am very pleased to see that the weather gods didn't decimate our fixture list as they have been doing. I don't know whether frozen pitches are going to be our next problem, but let's hope, fingers crossed, that they're not. But no, I had a very pleasant afternoon at Stour Head to look at the Christmas lights with my family, which was a very pleasant thing to do. I would recommend it strongly to all of our listeners, but of course it's got absolutely nothing to do with Toolstation Western League football, which is very much what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Of course, we do have two interviews. The first is with Jamie Manley, the manager of Bridport. We haven't heard from Jamie for a while, it would be fair to say. We certainly haven't heard from Bridport either. They had a good win at the weekend, so it'd be interesting to catch up with a side that's certainly had its fair share of troubles this season. And also we'll be speaking to a new contributor to the Western League podcast. It is Clayton Woodman, the manager of Oldland Abbotonians. The beginning of this week's podcast will very much be focused on the FA Vars third round. But before we do that, I think an honourable mention to Warminster Town. I'm sure they'll be coming up a little bit later as well, given their heroics on the 1st of December. But they pulled off another very impressive win, this time on penalties, away at Longwell Green Sports in the Les Phillips Cup. So Warminster Town certainly cup specialists from the First Division. Hats off to them.
Can I just mention something about that?
You certainly can, sir.
I mean, yeah, and an incredible night in particular for Nathan Ball, the goalkeeper for Warminster on Tuesday. Not only scoring the first goal with a big hoof upfield, so obviously quite a momentous moment for him, and obviously not a shot on target, not a shot, so to speak, but it ended up in the net, so he got the ball rolling. And then, yeah, as you mentioned in the shootout, he saved 3 spot kicks. So, I think Nathan probably deserves a bit of a shout out. I know it's Les Phillips and it's midweek, but yeah, I think we need to give Nathan a mention. And yeah, a terrific week for Warminster began on Tuesday evening.
Absolutely. Well done there, Tom. Yeah, for anybody who thinks we put this together before we actually start talking to each other, I think that's well and truly exploded that myth. We were going to start by talking about football on Saturday the 30th of November, and of course really the focus for many Western League sides, and of course many people involved in grassroots football, is the FA Vars. It was the third round, and I know you're going to take us through it, Tom, but I mean, Bitton, they started off an all-Western League tie against Cribbs.
They did, and they managed to sneak through a 2-1 victory for Bitton. Josh Egan, he's their leading scorer of the season. He handed them a 15th minute lead, but Cribbs managed to hit back. George Kello heading home from a Jacob Hodgson free kick to make it 1-1. But then just prior to the hour mark, Bitton managed to score the third and deciding goal in the end, and it was Ryan Bath. I think he's a bit of a recent signing. He started well there, and he managed to slot home, and that's how it stayed. So it was Bitton who prevailed and claimed a 2-1 win over Cribbs.
Now the next all Toolstation Western League affair was between Bradford Town and Bridgewater Town. Two towns, two sides at the top of the Premier Division, and of course this one went right down to the wire, Tom.
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say this game had pretty much everything. Bradford, the eventual victors, 4-3, but yeah, extra time needed, and plenty going on. It was a pretty tight affair to begin with. It was 62 minutes before the deadlock was broken, and that was Bradford. Gary Higdon heading home a Matt Morris cross, but Bridgewater managed to hit back, and they weren't behind for long. And it was Jake Llewellyn tucking home a penalty as he always does, Mr. Reliable from 12 yards. And that then sent the game to extra time. But then less than 3 minutes into the extra period, it was Bradford who went ahead again. Sean Keat putting them 2-1 up. And then, the game just came to life. Harry Hilton volleying the visitors' level before Tyson Pollard then restored Bradford's advantage from the spot, all in the first 10 minutes of extra time. So as I say, the game completely shot into life, and it was Jack Whitcomb then sent off just before half-time of extra time for Bradford to make their task a bit tougher, even though they were a few goals ahead. But then Pollard actually managed to give the 10 men an extra lead, so putting them 2 goals to the good. Bridgewater, of course, came back at them. Tom Ellis heading home in the 118th minute, but they were unable to force home another equaliser. And so it was Bradford and who prevailed. A 4-3 win over Bridgewater, a very healthy crowd, and a fascinating contest between two of our top sides.
Yeah, epic, wasn't it? 148 people at that game. Not really doing it justice, really. And a fantastic example of why it's such a shame that so many Western League sides have been drawn against each other in this competition. It would have been lovely to see both of those sides progress, but unfortunately we've been denied that. Fortunately, Plymouth Parkway did draw opposition from another league. It was Hamworthy United, but Plymouth Parkway had to go away. Now, Plymouth Parkway, they don't need an invitation, do they? I mean, their form this season has been fantastic, as of course we all know, and they flew the flag for the Toolstation Western League in emphatic style down in Dorset.
Absolutely. And one man in particular came to the fore for the Devon side, and it was Jordan Kopp. So he put the away side ahead in the 5th minute before Hamworthy did manage to get it back on level terms, made it 1-1, and that's how it stayed until half-time. So again, very much in the balance, but then Kopp took over in the second half, curling home a second, before then completing his hat-trick from outside the box to make it 3-1, and put Parkway in the driving seat. And then, just to add the finishing touches, final couple of minutes, and Kopp added another one. So, his 4th, and Plymouth's 4th. So a really impressive 4-1 win away at Hamworthy for the Parkway, and they roll on to the next round.
They certainly do. Congratulations to them. Very much deserved. One final tie in the Vars on Saturday. Tavistock against Buckland. A real peninsular derby, this one. And, it's the Renaissance men who took the spoils.
Yeah, and it was another game packed full of incident. Plenty going on down there. Tavistock, an early red card for them, for Tom Strike. And it was them given a much tougher task to fight back. Buckland scoring twice in quick succession. Richard Groves from the spot, and then Manny Skett also scoring to make it 2-0. But then at the beginning of the second half, Buckland had a red card of their own. Dan Harrison dismissed for a foul in the area to give Tavistock a chance to trim the deficit. But Jack Craigo's had an absolutely fantastic season, our leading scorer in all competitions so far. He saw his spot kick saved by Ken Griffiths in the Buckland net, so to maintain Buckland's 2-goal advantage. Lloyd Gardner then joined Harrison in suffering a red card, so Buckland down to 9. So just to keep count, that was 9v10. And Tavistock made that extra man count. Jordan Anir pulling a goal back during the final 10 minutes, and they did come close on a number of occasions during those final couple of moments, but Tavistock unable to break down that Buckland back line, and it was Athletic who move on to the next round. A pretty memorable 2-1 victory for Buckland away at Tavistock.
Yes, Buckland there, an FA Vars side with some pedigree, but when you consider Tavistock's heroics in the FA Cup this season and Buckland's troubles in the league this season, it really is a very special result for Buckland Athletic. Now, we have one more game in the Vars, which we'll be talking about at the end of our roundup from the weekend, because, we like to save the best till last, as far as I'm concerned. But we will move into the Premier Division, and the first game is between two basement boys, two sides that really did need a win. They came up against each other. Bridport and Cadbury Heath were the two sides in question, and to the home team, the spoils.
Yeah, they I think we can all agree they were in need of this victory. Haven't tasted much success in recent time, Bridport, but now up to 18th following this win, and it was 2 second half goals for them, helping them to a 2-0 victory over Cadbury Heath. And it was Declan Corlish and Tom Richardson on the score sheet for them in a 2-0 win for Bridport.
Well, that was all the excuse I needed to get in touch with Jamie Manley, the manager of Bridport, and I asked him whether that win over Cadbury Heath at the weekend left him delighted or relieved.
Bit of both. It was a tight game, to be fair. Cadbury Heath are a good side. I spoke with Andy Black, their manager, before the game. We had a chat, and really we discussed a bit about the Western League, really, how it's more of a bit of a two-tier league, really. The top sides are way ahead, really, from the ones at the bottom. So, like I said, we had a chat, and we got on with the game. But it was a close game. But I think overall we edged it, especially in the second half. We were a lot better in the second half, and created a fair few chances. We hit the crossbar twice, and obviously scored 2 goals. So it was pleasing to get the 3 points, because obviously we've been on a bit of a bad run. But yeah, it's nice to get 3 points in the bag, really.
Now, that was your first clean sheet since your last win, which was over high-flying Hallam, it has to be said, and that was on October the 19th. So in some respects, from your position as manager, was the clean sheet as important as the 3 points?
That is something that myself, Kev Lee, who's my assistant, and Guy McCauley, who's my coach, we've looked to address the defensive side, really. Like I said, we shipped a fair few goals over a couple of games, which was well disappointing. But since then, we've addressed it. We brought a few players in. We brought Andy Holmes in, who's a centre half. He's come with me from Chard. Tom Salter's another lad who's came in at fullback. And we've also got Aston Butcher. We signed him from Portland. So that's three defenders we needed to bring in. And to be fair, when they're all available and when they've played, they've done really well. And you can see that we are a lot tighter now than what we were. So, yeah, it's something we've addressed, and like I said, it's always nice to get a clean sheet. So, yeah, all good, really.
Now, obviously, in some respects, it's been a difficult October for you, and I think you've alluded to it just there. The elephant in the room for this interview is, of course, the results against Street and Bradford. And I've been involved in Western League football for long enough to know that clubs can face a whole host of situations that contribute to difficult days at the office. So, from your perspective as the manager, I mean, looking back on those games, what was the situation that you inherited when you came in as manager, and how much do you think that contributed to those difficult fixtures?
We just come off a win against Hallam, going into the Street game, and we thought, we'll look at that and hopefully we'll kick on. But for some, apparently, it just didn't work out that night. And to be fair, Street were clinical. Their finishing was top drawer, but we obviously gifted them some chances as well. And you could say that about Bradford as well. They've got some top strikers, and everything they hit was going in the top corner. So sometimes we just got beaten by 2 sides on the day that were a lot better than us. But it's not often you go into a football club where the team's flying high in the league. So like I said, I knew the situation at Bridport when I took the job. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it was going to be work in progress. And like I just said earlier, with the players we have got now coming in, we're going to be a lot stronger, a lot harder to beat. And I can't see us shipping 9 goals again this season, hopefully.
You came in at the end of September. So obviously things hadn't started particularly well for the club this season. When you met the board, what was the brief that they gave you for this season?
Basically, it's to keep them in the Western League Premier Division. So that's going to be the aim. Like I said, it's not going to be easy. I think this is one of the strongest the Prem's been for a long time. So especially with the Devon clubs coming in, obviously Tavistock, Plymouth, Parkway, they're both strong, and Exmouth as well, both all strong sides. So it is a strong league. But like I said, we're no different to the other sides who are going to be round the bottom and round about halfway. They'll be looking to pick up points against the likes of ourselves, but we are looking to pick points up against them. Like in Cadbury Heath on Saturday was a prime example, really. It was one of them games where we looked at and thought, yes, we could probably get something out of the game if we get our game plan right, and that's exactly what we did. So.
Now, you mentioned this earlier in the interview that, you and Andy Black had a chat about the strength of the Premier Division. It's something I've been reflecting on with managers in these interviews on the podcast. And it does feel that Western League football is currently undergoing something of a renaissance, that actually there's a lot of the strength in depth in the league, whereas previously there might be sort of 1 or 2 standout sides. Actually, the strength in depth is better than it's been for a while. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. The trouble we have at Bridport is probably our catchment area is not as good as a lot of the places. Well, we've got to try and bring in lads from Weymouth, Yeovil, Axminster, Chard area, we've got to try and get lads in from there. Where obviously Bristol sides, they've got the pick of big catchment area. The team at the top, their budget's a lot bigger than what we can offer as well, so they can always attract the better players. So, but yeah, but it's always a challenge, and it's one which is good really to go up against. So, and we look forward to it each game, each week, really.
Well, we're going to be talking about the challenges coming up in the next few weeks in a minute, but I mean, you next up, you've alluded to it already. It's Plymouth Parkway, and that's not going to be an easy game for you, is it?
No, we got 3 tough games coming up. So we know Plymouth Parkway are a decent side, and no doubt about it, they'll be up thereabouts at the end of the season. So, but to be fair, I haven't been down to Plymouth, so it'd be nice to go and have a look at their ground and see what they're all about. But like I said, after Saturday's result, it's something now. Hopefully, we can kick on a little bit, and like I said, we'll give it our best and hopefully get something out of it.
Yeah, those next 3 games, of course, you've got the likes of Parkway, Exmouth and Bitton. When you're looking
probably
at these...
get 9 points, I should imagine.
When you, I mean, but on a serious note, Jamie, do these games represent something of a free hit for you? Because, I mean, realistically speaking, the expectations of you getting anything out of these games has got to be pretty low. So the opportunity for your players to go out there and either cause an upset or actually express themselves and you know, enjoy the game, see what they can get out of it, it's got to be quite a compelling message, isn't it?
Yeah, but we'll still set them up like we do week in, week out, and try and put our game plan onto it. But like I said, yeah, it's tough games, tough run of fixtures for us. But like I just said, we'll be there and we'll give it our best shot on each game. But if we turn up and we perform like we have done, any side in the league, a good game. So that's what we'll be looking to do, really.
And my thanks to Jamie for his time. Now, moving on to another side down at the wrong end of the table that desperately needs a win, Chipping Sudbury Town. They were at home to high-flying Hallen. Surely the form book said this game can only go one way, but the scoreline would suggest a much closer encounter, Tom.
Yeah, very much so. The informed Hallen having to come from behind in this one. But they have now won 4 league games on the bounce. It was a last-gasp victory. They did go ahead, Sasha Tong putting them in front pretty early on. But then there was goals either side of the half from Chipping Sodbury, giving them a 2-1 lead going into the final half hour. Kyle Thomas then slotted home a penalty to get Hallen back on level terms, and then in injury time, so right at the death, Hallen managed to defeat Chipping Sodbury with Isaac Reed scoring the winner. I think Chipping Sodbury were down to 10 at that stage, so they were up against it, and finally broken down. But Hallen roll on, as I say, a fourth league victory on the spin, and they are tearing it up at the moment.
They are, aren't they? They're the Leicester City of the Tool Station Western League.
Absolutely.
A point I made to their manager, of course, Ray Johnson, that would make him the Brendan Rodgers. Now, if I am the Gary Lineker of the very much so. If I'm the Gary Lineker of the Western League and I've got to do the podcast in my underpants if Hallen win it, then what does that mean you've got to do?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I think we've got to put that out there for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm willing to put my neck on the line quite that much.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm more than willing to put your neck on the line. Don't you worry about that. I'm going to put that. We're going to get that to our social media manager James Healy. He's going to get that out there. If Ian Knockholds has to do the podcast in his underpants? What does Tom Hiscock have to do? That's going to be. That's our Twitter poll for next week.
Anyway, I'm quite famous enough for Strictly quite yet. That would be something.
Blimey, you've gone Hollywood with that one, haven't you? Right, one last game we're going to review in the Premier Division, and it was your side, Odd Down. Again, another team that's not necessarily been in the best of form against Keynsham Town, a side that's done very well, in my opinion, since coming up from the First Division. But it's found a Premier Division probably stronger than, well, certainly it's been since we've been doing the podcast. So a valuable win for either side in this game. It was a close affair, but the away team went home happy, didn't they, Tom?
They did. They managed to snatch it. I think we noted recently that Keynsham had been scoring a fair few, but conceding plenty at the other end, which was sort of which was their undoing. But this one, a much tighter affair, goalless for over an hour before Keynsham managed to break the deadlock. Stephen Lee putting them ahead, and Odd Down, who are I keep saying they're in free fall, but they're just not picking up points at all. And another another goalless effort from them, and it was Keynsham who took the spoils, a 1-0 victory for them in Bath away at Olddown.
If you're thinking, Toolstation, I know they'll save me money, but do they have all the top brands? You know, DeWalt, Makita, Einhell, Stanley, Myra, Kudox, Nest and Santex. Yeah, they do. Over 15,000 trade quality products in the range from the leading brands with prices that are hard to beat. If you want a helping hand to save on your next job, try Toolstation. With over 300 branches, there's always a Toolstation near you.
Now moving on to the First Division, and our first game is a 7-goal thriller. The home side were Almondsbury, the visitors were Oldland Abbotonians. Not a great attendance on this one, Tom, but really that's a terrible shame because they'd have seen an absolute belter.
Yeah, I mean this game defined thriller. I mean, one of the craziest games I can imagine took place in the whole country on Saturday. They took a 13th minute lead, Oldland, through Cash Vinnell, but then at the end of the first half they just seemed to fall apart, and it was Almondsbury, the home side, took advantage. It was Stuart Alexander, Geraint Williams and Matthew Davis all finding the back of the net in a 5-minute spell, putting them 3-1 up at the break. And Almondsbury have been doing all right of late. Probably thought, they might have been able to hold on to that, but with just 10 minutes left on the clock, Oldland grabbed a lifeline. Vinnell scoring his second from the spot to make it 3-2. But then 2 minutes from time, it was an Antonio Nurse cross, which deflected in off one of the Almondsbury defenders, and that made it 3-3. So it looked like the points would be shared. But Oldland managed to push on again, and it was Nurse obviously played a big part in the equaliser. He then managed to fire home the 7th and final goal of the contest. He played a 1-2 with Frank Taylor Fox, brilliant name, and managed to bury his effort, and a stoppage time winner, capping a thrilling contest, and a 4-3 win for Oldland away at Almondsbury.
A stoppage time winner indeed, and of course it was a wonderful opportunity to meet for the first time Clayton Woodman, the manager of Oldland Abbotonians, and I started our conversation by asking him for his thoughts on that dramatic win at the weekend.
Game quality wasn't that good from the start of the match. Really, we controlled the game for the first 20 minutes, scored a lovely goal, and then really Almondsbury took hold of us. They took hold of us for about 20-25 minutes till half time. They didn't really penetrate us at all, and then obviously within a while, 10 minutes of the half, just before the end of the half, they scored 3 goals, and we went in at half time 3-1 down. So we were right on the back foot. Probably deserved it. They deserved it as well. They grinded us down. They played some nice football, and from being in control, we really struggled at the end. Obviously, going into the second half, there were some harsh words said at half time, just to see what heart the lads had. And to be honest, they responded very, very well. I think the second half was dominantly ours. Once we got the second goal, there didn't look like there was going to be anyone else but us going on and winning 4-3, to be honest. I felt a bit sorry for them because they actually played quite well, and I think a fair result would have probably been a draw. In the end, very happy, but it was a scrappy game.
Now, you're 9th in the table. That puts you in mid-table. Does that tell the story of how your season has gone so far?
Not really. We've played some good sides. Like, we played Wincannon at the start of the season where we were winning 2-1 with probably 5 minutes to go. Made mistakes there and got a draw, so there was points lost there. Drew with Hengrove in the week at home. Points probably lost there, I think. Especially, like, we went up and played the leaders, Con, up at their place, and I think we were probably the better side that day. Probably deserved a little bit more than we had. So I think we would like to thought we had been a little bit higher than we are.
I mean, what do you put that down to then? Those narrow, those dropped points. I mean, have you had challenges with sort of squad selection this season, or is it?
No, not really. I've got a massive squad. It's probably the biggest squad Oldland's had for a long time. I've probably got about 23 in the squad. I pass a lot of players down to the reserves most weeks. I think in general we haven't had that luck in front of goal at the minute. I think we're missing an out-and-out goal scorer. But then you look at our last 2 or 3 results, we've had 2 4-3s, so we scored goals, but we don't seem to be, in games where it's very close at 0-0, 1-0s, we're not closing games out. And we've played against a lot of sides this year that is probably not as played as well as us on the day, but as soon as they get their chances in front of goal, they just take them straight away. And I think that's a harsh lesson for us in this league. We're a new side, very young side. Obviously, I think if we could put the ball in the back of the net a bit more, we'd probably be in the top 5, to be honest.
So when you came into the Oldland dugout at the beginning of this season, what were your expectations for what you wanted the team to achieve?
Oh, to be honest, I would always want to achieve it. Well, we could be the best team in the league, but that's a bit optimistic, I think. At the end of the day, we're a new side and a very, very young side. We've even got 17-year-olds in our side now. So I've managed to put a side together this year from local lads, trying to get a bit of a local feel back to the club, and with a lot of young lads as well, trying to build a side for the future. And they've probably done a bit better than I thought they would do. But I'm still hoping to be in the top 6 this year. I'm still going to be pushing. If I can get a result on Wednesday night, we got a game against Warminster on the 21st, going into probably the hardest game of the season against Longwell after Christmas. So if we can get a couple of points up to now and still be in the race come January, I fancy ourselves for a top 6 finish.
We've talked a bit about the likes of Cairn, and you've also played teams like Corsham and Sherborne and Wells. So if you think about the matches you've played so far this season, which of the other teams in the First Division have impressed you?
To be honest, we've been involved in every single game and not been overshadowed by anyone, bar Wells. They've played us twice, beat us 4-1 twice. I think we were leading once in the first game, but they look so strong. They look quite organised up front. Their movement is very, very good. I'm surprised they're not higher than they are, to be honest. Because every side we've played against, we feel we could have beat. I don't really think we could have beat Wells, the 2 sides we played them. They were very good. And Sherborne as well. I would have said they were the best technically football side, but very, very strong and very organised.
Now, you've not played at home since your defeat to Cheddar at the end of September. Has that been a cause of concern for you?
Not really. Our pitch has never been the best down there. I think it needs a bit of work to be done on it. But you get your away games in. If we can grind results out away, then all of a sudden you've got a nice long run of games at home, which hopefully you can pile the points up. So it's not a worry. Get the long fixtures out of the way. If we can do well in them, so be it. I'm quite happy to play at home later on in the season when the ground's a little bit harder, with probably what I feel is a better footballing scene which we've got. I think the heavy ground don't suit us that much, but the footballing ground does. So hopefully it benefits us.
Now you've got Portishead up next. Are you optimistic that game's going to get on?
The game will be on. The pitch is all right. We've already checked out already. Looking at the weather as well, there isn't any bad weather now till Friday. So yeah, we're on at the minute. I think it'd be a tough game. They come down and played us in the cup. We tried some new players out in the cup that day and we lost. I feel we'll be going into it with a stronger side. I've got everyone available for the 23. So it'll be down to me to pick a side that hopefully can get us the 3 points at home.
Now, one final question for you, Clayton. This is the first time we've spoken on the podcast, and I really appreciate you giving us the time. But can you tell us a little bit about your footballing journey to the Oldland dugout?
Yeah, as in obviously management-wise, I did play football when I was younger for Oldland. I ended up having a 2-year pro contract at Norwich City. I ended up then dropping down through injuries. I ended up playing for Bath City for a bit. And then I ended up finding myself, I was an Oldland lad anyway, so I ended up finding myself playing at Oldland. Captained them for 2 seasons. And then just went away. I had kids and things went different ways. I then got back into football with the kids and found myself at Bocco, which I was there for 7 years. I had a lovely little journey. Didn't really want to do much in management first off, but climbed up just with the team doing well. Ended up in the first team down there. And then when the Oldland job came about, I thought, well, look, that's my own side. I want to get back there. So I grabbed the opportunity to come back as soon as I could, to be honest.
And my thanks to Clayton for his time. Now, our next game in the First Division is between 2 high-flying sides, 2 fancied sides that we talk about regularly on the podcast, Cheddar and Ashton and Backwell. 6 goals in this game, but very little to separate the 2 sides at the final whistle.
Yeah, at the final whistle, it was a 3-3, and Cheddar just unable to replicate Oldland's dramatic victory. But having fallen to a 3-goal deficit themselves, to get a 3-3 draw, I think they'll be pretty happy, the Cheesemen, to come away with a point. In what was a stunning start to the game. I mean, Ashton completely smashed it coming out the start of the game. Miles Hardage curling them into a 7th minute lead, and then Callum Townsend, a left-footed finish, doubling their advantage 2 minutes later, to give them a 2-0 advantage very early on, with Joe Bishop then making it 3-0 not long after, in just the 15th minute. He saw his original penalty saved, but managed to score the rebound, and putting Ashton 3 goals to the good in no time at all. So it was looking like a tough afternoon for Cheddar, but all credit to them. They managed to get back level before half time. So a frantic first half. Rick Bennett scoring twice before it was George Booth then slid the ball home towards the end of the first half, making it 3-3. And after 6 goals in the first half, a goalless second half, but it was the points shared between Cheddar and Ashton.
And our final game in the First Division from the weekend was Sherborne Town against Calne Town. Now, this was one of those matches that we called out on last week's podcast. Sherborne Town, of course, have been doing ever so well. Calne Town are the league leaders. I honestly thought that we would see an upset here. I did think Sherborne would have enough, particularly with them at home, to take on the league leaders, but that wasn't the case. Calne Town, Tom, proving to be quite a special outfit in this season's First Division.
I mean, Sherborne, couldn't have come close to stealing victory in this one. They suffered a big blow at the end of the first half. Matt Brown given a straight red card, but they did manage to regroup, and Ashley Clark put them ahead soon after the interval. So their own side 1 up, and Calne fighting for points. And then, just as it looked like they might have come unstuck, Stuart Windsor, obviously a pretty good goal scorer at First Division level. He managed to head home an 88th minute equaliser. The 10 men coming unstuck, unfortunately. And then in stoppage time, another stoppage time winner on Saturday afternoon. There's plenty of them going on. It was Zach Mitchell scoring less than 2 minutes after Windsor had equalised, and completed the dramatic turnaround, giving the league leaders a 2-1 win. Seems like they don't know when they're beaten.
Certainly not. The mark of true champions, it could be said. Anyway, there's an awful lot of football left to be played in the First Division, but hats off to Calne there. Credit where it's deserved. Now, one final game for us to talk about in our roundup, that was played on Sunday, the 1st of December. And as I said earlier in the podcast, we do like to save the best till last. It was an all-Western League fair between Premier Division Roman Glass St George and First Division Warminster Town in the FA Vars third round, our last Vars match. And I thought, for all of the heroics that Warminster have performed in this season's Vars competition, that this would be a bridge too far for them. Not least, forget the fact that they're taking on Premier Division opposition, but also Roman Glass St George are a formidable outfit. We've heard from managers recently on the podcast about how well they've recruited. Well, the First Division team, they turned up again, and a memorable victory, of course, for Warminster. 140 saw this, and they march on to the next round, Tom.
They do. A 2-1 win for Warminster, coming from behind to do it as well, doing it the hard way. George Box putting Roman Glass ahead early, and as you say, they're a formidable side, and they're a very much an informed side as well, climbing up the Premier Division table at a rate of knots at the moment, it looked like they were probably on track for a spot in the last 32, but Warminster had other ideas. Evan Mortimer Taylor levelling for the away side at the end of the first half, and then late on it was James Vincent striking the winner for Warminster, and put the Wiltshire side in the next round. So pretty well. A bit disappointing afternoon for Roman Glass, but Warminster continue to upset everybody.
Now, finishing on the Vars, Tom, the draw has happened, and what's the draw looking like for the remaining Western League sides?
So unfortunately, it looks like we've got a couple more all Western League ties, which obviously, I mean, it's positive in a way, but it's also you might want to see them split up at this stage in the competition. So Warminster's reward for a victory away at Roman Glass, we just mentioned, they're on their travels again. They take on Bitton, who obviously will probably fancy their chances. Plymouth Parkway, we don't know who they will officially be playing yet. It's either going to be Woodbridge or Stanway Rovers. That will be an away tie for Plymouth Parkway, but that's still to be decided who comes through that original tie. And then we've also got 2 other Premier Division teams who will face off. We've got Buckland hosting Bradford. So, three ties we get to look forward to in the next round, which will be in January. So it's over a month's time. So, but yeah, plenty of build-up, I'm sure, before the big games.
I have to say I'm very disappointed that 4 Western League sides have been drawn against each other. I think it was bad enough in the last round, that we had 6 teams drawn against each other. It's not something, since you and I have been doing the podcast, that I'm used to. I don't know whether there's a reason for it. For all I know, there's a good reason for it. I can't think of one, to be honest with you, because Warminster to go up against Bitton. I mean, frankly, I thought Warminster were going to go out against Roman Glass. So actually, Bitton beware. But the idea that Warminster could have drawn a big side from the Hellenic or the Wessex or the Peninsula League, that would have been a great day out for that football club. Had they got them back to their place, I'd have backed them probably pretty much against anybody, I have to say. Anyway, that's the way that the cookie crumbles, or that's the way that the balls come out the hat, it would appear. Plymouth Parkway clearly gets special treatment. They're allowed. They're the wrecking ball in the loose. They're allowed to go and sort of remove whichever opposition they see fit, and I certainly hope that they do that in the next round. But it is a shame that our Western League our Western League clubs haven't been given the opportunity to progress en masse. But that's football, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously does give us the certainty that we'll have 2 teams in the last 16, which is a positive. But as you say, it's disappointing that a couple will be, as we know, will definitely be knocked out. But all the best to those sides. But still a long way to go until those games do get underway. So plenty to look forward to.
Very much so. Now, we won't dwell too much on the midweek fixtures, Tom. Let's hope that the weather gods are kind to our clubs. I do notice that we have a little bit of Friday night football. It's Radstock Town against Bishop Sutton. This is a sort of a northeast Somerset derby, if such a thing exists. Radstock, of course, have been going incredibly well this season. Traditionally, this would be the sort of banana skin that would upset them. I really hope that Brett Partner's men are able to put in a better showing than that, because they're really sort of punching their weight at the top of the table. That's no disrespect to Bishop Sutton. I know that they would desperately love a win. So hopefully that there will be a big crowd at Southfields Recreation Ground on Friday, the 6th of December. It's a 7:30 kickoff to watch that game. But really the focus, as always, for our fixture preview is the Saturday game, Saturday the 7th of December. And which game in the Premier Division, Tom, has caught your eye?
So it's a big one towards the top. I've gone for Exmouth versus Hallen. Both in the upper reaches of the division. Hallen, as we mentioned earlier, 4 league wins on the spin. Travelling to Exmouth, that'll be an incredibly tough task for them to extend that winning run. So fascinated to see how that one goes on Saturday afternoon.
There's a few tasty ties.
Really are, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Plymouth Parkway against Bridport. I know, obviously, Bridport coming off the back of that win, and you've got Roman Glass against Bitton, which will be a good game. Brislington are a good side. They face Tavistock. Well, I'm going to go for Buckland, the Renaissance men. Their form has been absolutely phenomenal, isn't it, in the last couple of games, and they're coming up against Bradford Town. They will give Bradford, I am absolutely sure, a real test. Now, frankly, if Bradford can come through and take 3 points from Buckland, then Plymouth Parkway got something to worry about. That's my prediction. There you go. Anyway, moving on to the First Division, Tom. Which game has caught your eye there?
It's another home game for Sherborne, which they'll get a chance to rebound from the late defeat to Carn on Saturday. They take on Longwell Green Sports, so another top 3 clash. Sherborne, I don't think we think any worse of them after coming unstuck right at the end with 10 men against Carn. They'll come again, I'm sure. They, as I say, get another crack against a top side in Longwell Green, who themselves 10 wins from their 14 league games. Another 6-0 victory, I think it was, on Saturday afternoon. So 2 teams doing really, really well, and it'll be great to see how those two do when they come together on Saturday.
Now, if we were going to do this at the beginning of the season, I think there are 2 fixtures here that stand out. Ashton and Backwell against Carn, Corsham Town against Cheddar. Obviously, we've got the form guide to reflect on. Ashton and Backwell against Carn. Well, I think Caen, having gone to Sherborne, you would expect them to sort of follow that up with a good result at Ashton and Backwell. Ashton and Backwell, I'm sure we'll have something to say about that. Corsham Town against Cheddar. I think that'll be a very good game. We never really know. Corsham and my Jekyll and Hyde side, if they can get it together in the second half of the season, I still think that they'll be causing trouble to the top four, and Cheddar have every reason to believe that they'll be there come the end of the season. So I think that will be a very good game. So my game to watch in the First Division is Corsham Town against Cheddar. Now, before we move on, we did the goal scorers last week, Tom, and we are going to have a look at the league tables this week. If you want to kick us off, who is hot in the Premier Division?
So we've got Bradford leading the way, 37 points from their 14 games, just the one defeat so far. They sit top, and then we've got Parkway close behind. They've played one less. Pretty much identical record. They've also faced just one defeat and now on 34 points, so 3 points behind, but with the game in hand, as I mentioned. We've then got, we've mentioned them quite a few times, the inform Howland. They've crept up and they're now third. Absolutely fantastic for them. They've played 15, they're on 29 points, and 29 points also for Clevedon. They've played 16 matches. We've then got Exmouth, who've only played 11. Quite a few cup exertions for them so far this season. They've played 11 now on 27 points, so they can certainly creep up on a couple of those sides ahead. And then we've got Bridgewater and Brislington, who've played 14 and 19 respectively, so quite a discrepancy there. Those two are also on 27 points, so that's how the top 7 stand in the Premier Division at the moment.
Chipping Sodbury remain locked in at the bottom. Played 16, they've got 7 points. Only 3 points above them are Wellington, who played 17 and got 10 points. Odd down on the same number of points, 10, played only 15 games. Then Bridport, of course, who we heard from earlier in the podcast. Bridport in 18th position have played 18 and have 13 points. And one of the weird and wonderful things, the idiosyncrasies, if you like, of the Premier Division is that the team directly above Bridport are Roman Glass. I think Roman Glass are a very good side. They have got 14 points, but they've played 6 games less than Bridport, and I think that's going to be one of the crucial factors. They've only played 12 matches, so it'll be interesting to see when the fixtures have sort of sorted themselves out, where sides like Roman Glass have actually find themselves. Anyway, moving on to the First Division, Tom. Caen Town, of course, all conquering Caen, remain at the pinnacle of the First Division, but who are the other runners and riders?
So yeah, they do at the moment. Caen, they've played 15, they're on 32 points. We've then got the two teams, the next two are the ones that meet on Saturday. So we've got Longwell Green in second. They've played 14, so one less than Caen, and they're only a point behind, they're on 31. And then we've got Sherborne in third, they've also played 14, they're on 27 points. So those three are at the top at the moment. We've then got Wincanton in fourth, they've played 13 and they're on 26 points. So doing extremely well. And then we've got Wells and Radstock are both on 25 points and they've played 14 and 13 respectively. And then we've then got a huge cluster of sides from Lebec up to Cheddar and Radstock in 6th and 7th. Lebec down in 11th, but they're only a couple of points back. They're on 21. And Cheddar on 24, Radstock 25, and a couple of teams in the middle of that as well. So it really is tight, and that's just the top half of the table. So plenty going on in the First Division. Absolutely.
Bristol Telephones, they're in 20th position. They've played 16. They've got 5 points, but we are reliably informed that there's more to come from them. We've heard from them on the podcast, and we know that there's fire in that particular belly. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a fist they can make of getting away from the bottom of the table. Bishop Sutton just above them. On balance, if you look at it for and against, they don't concede that many goals. Hengrove, of course, scoring goals has been their major problem. Only 7 this season in the league, but I think we expect better things to come from them in the second half of the season. And then there's my very own Devizes Town in 17th. They've played 12 matches and they've got 10 points, so still work to do there. Right then, now one of the things that the Toolstation Western League has been doing over the last month is running a campaign promoting volunteers and volunteering in our league. Not just because it's a good idea and a nice thing to do, but because our clubs desperately need support. Now, Tom, you featured this in this week's bulletin, so do you want to give us a little synopsis about why this is so important?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, I popped it in this week's bulletin, so hopefully people will be able to find information if they need it. But yeah, basically, yeah, it's all about getting volunteers involved in running and helping develop football, and that's at every level, of course. So specifically, they're the backbone of grassroots football, as we know. Time, dedication, and commitment that each of these clubs need week in, week out, and the leagues wouldn't exist without them. So it's an important thing, and football clubs and leagues is not just about the players, as we all know. So I know there's a number of volunteer options out there. There's a few clubs that have got in touch with the league and have their information and stuff on the website, and that's also in the bulletin. And there's a variety of roles, anything from turnstile operators, PA announcers, and people to serve refreshments and stuff like that, and obviously general tidying up of the ground. That's one of the main things. So if you need any more information, I would say best places to look on the Toolstation website, where there's information on how to get in touch with people from the clubs that are looking for volunteers, and it's also, as I say, in the bulletin this week, and we'll hope to keep updating that during the season.
Now, one further notice that the Toolstation Western League has asked me to pass on is the importance of clubs making sure that the insurance that they take out for the, in particular, player-to-player insurance is absolutely adequate. Now, we've got a sort of statement from the Football Association which basically says that it's a mandatory requirement for all affiliated clubs in England to have public liability insurance and public accident insurance for all their players. We regularly review the insurance requirements to ensure that they meet the needs of the game. In 2012, the FA introduced the National Game Insurance Scheme to raise the standards of insurance and help facilitate a uniformity of basic cover across the game. It was designed in consultation with the county, FAs, leagues and clubs. The objective was to ensure that competitive and robust insurance products specifically tailored to the needs of any given area of football were made available. Why is this important? Because I know that sounded like a little bit of a party political broadcast, which we certainly don't want on the Western League podcast. But unfortunately, Ossett Town have reached the headlines. Many people listening to this may have seen that. And they have been hit by a very nasty insurance claim related to a player-to-player incident. They're a side that plays in the Bet Victor Northern Premier League, and one of their players broke an ankle and was awarded just over £20,000, well £19,000 in damages, and also a huge amount, over £115,000 in legal fees. So this was all about the insurance cover that the club didn't have. So please, if you are involved in club administration in the Toolstation Western League, please check your player-to-player cover just to make sure that it's adequate, just in case the worst should happen, because I think that Ossett find themselves in a very, very difficult situation because they didn't do that. So if we can help you take a look at that, then we certainly will. That's all from Tom and I on this week's podcast. If we have been, of course, reviewing your excellent bulletin, Tom. Where can the listeners find that?
That is on the Toolstation website. There's a tab along the top which takes you to the most recent publishing of the bulletin, and it's also about halfway down the homepage as well. So it should be pretty easy to find, hopefully. And that's you can download that as a PDF or as a Word doc.
Tom, thank you very much as always for your time.
Pleasure.
This week. And I look forward to catching up with you on next week's Toolstation Western League podcast.